OU opened the game in double tight here, and we're initially showing a cover 2 shell on defense. As we get closer to the snap, you'll see that we walk up another defender to give us a 5 on the line look. And we're actually running a fire zone here. You can see our corners drop off, and we have one safety going deep. Gideon's coming down here to fill one of the hot zones. So we have our 3 hot defenders, our hot 3 defender, and then our hot 2 defenders. OU's just running a 2-man route here. They're running out routes, and they're able to turn this into a big gain. Really, this should just be about a 12-yard gain here. Diggs takes a bad angle, and then Broyles is able to get loose. But it's not just luck. I mean, there's some part of that is a mistake on defense, but this is also a very good call against what we do on defense. So let's kind of understand why. One thing is that from this cover 2 shell, there's really 3 main coverages that we would run from this situation. And you can kind of tell this is zone coverage by the depth that our corners are playing and their focus in the backfield. So the 3 coverages we would normally run from this are quarters, a cover 2 coverage, or a cover 3 coverage. In both the quarters and the cover 3 coverage, these outside areas, the flats, would be open if you can give your quarterback time to protect. The intent of a fire zone, what we're running here, is sort of pressure the quarterback early, force him into a quick throw, and then have your coverage jumping those quick throws. So the idea is, not to devote a lot to your pressure, but to make it focused pressure and still be able to jump all the quick routes. What creates problems for the fire zones is if you can protect the quarterback for a long period of time. So OU runs max protect here and only runs these 2-man routes, and they work exclusively in the flats, which basically negates our 3 underneath defenders, these 3 hot defenders. So one other thing that kind of creates a problem here for us is the fact that Gideon, you can see he's coming toward the line off the snap here. Now his responsibility on this play is this tight end. And as the hot 2 defender, that's the number 2 receiver on this side, he's supposed to protect against any hot routes from this receiver. But with the receiver staying in the protection, what he should be doing is dropping along the seam, keeping his eyes on the quarterback, and then breaking late in the flats. Once his aiming point is outside of Gideon, Gideon should be breaking outside. Instead, he doesn't start breaking outside until the ball is already halfway to the receiver. So as a result, when Broyles gets this ball, Gideon doesn't have depth, and he's getting a late break on the ball. That creates a larger inside lane for Broyles to run upfield. And so it magnifies the problem of Diggs' poor angle on Broyles on this play. So another important aspect of this game was our defense against the quick game. So here we're in man coverage, and man coverage is one of the good ways to try to work against the quick game. The other way that we tend to try to work against it is from the fire zone. From a zone defense, when you're trying to jump quick game, basically the quick is in front of you, and you're looking for a weight transfer from the quarterback, and you're going to try to jump on a route. In man defense, the way you're playing the quick game is you're trying to disrupt the timing of the quick stems, and by disrupting the timing, hopefully make the quarterback make a wrong read or make him hold on to the ball for longer than the protection is there for him. So one of the things that is critical to being successful in man coverage against a quick game is being aware of your splits. Down here you can see Diggs is on an island with Broyles, and Broyles is in a really wide split here. That means for the quick game, one of the main things that threatens Diggs is an inside release, specifically a quick slant, is going to be problematic for him. So he needs to make sure that he doesn't allow Broyles an easy release, because that's going to play exactly, in the quick game, an inside release would be much easier for Jones to throw to than an outside release, and it would give Diggs a lot less time to respond. So that's what happens here is, as the ball is snapped, Broyles gets a clean release inside, and Diggs really doesn't have a chance to disrupt this. If he initiates contact, rather than sort of allowing that lane of release, then possibly our defense, has a shot on this play. But with this much space and with a clean release, this is just a pass and catch, easy throw for Jones. Another thing to just sort of look at is how precise their quick game is. Look at Jones' footwork. This is really great from the pistol. Just a quick pivot and fire. And we'll see the same sort of issue with OSU is they really get the ball out very quickly in their quick game. It's something that they rep a ton, and Weedle is very well versed in it. So it's going to be critical to our game plan against Oklahoma State that when we're in man defense, we disrupt routes, and when we're in zone defense, that we're able to pressure Weedle, because if we allow these sorts of clean releases against Oklahoma State, we're going to encounter similar problems to OU, if not worse, because I would say Oklahoma State's quick game is even better than OU's. This play has already been broken down by multiple folks, so I won't retread too much on the breakdowns that have already been done. But basically, on this 3rd and 25 play that went bad for us, we're in man coverage, and we're in two deep safeties here. Rose gets a clean release off the line, which is an issue, as I just talked about. I mean, when you're in man coverage, you do want to create some disruption. We're definitely playing an inside trail technique here. So all of our corners are trying to establish inside position and then trail their routes. And so the idea there is to force Jones to make an over-the-top throw and have to throw into the safeties if he's going to try to make something happen. The one issue I have here kind of pops up right as we get this first frame. Both safeties on either side, once we get that initial release and the vertical press with these routes, so once these routes are obviously going vertical, then the safety should be splitting the difference between these routes. Instead, if you look where Phillips enters the frame here, he enters the frame at basically a split position, and you can see that he's already run. That means that he was probably running almost all the way from the hash. Well, by not taking that sort of position earlier in the route development, he doesn't really have an opportunity to defend this outside route. And yes, it is a tough throw that he's defending against. That is a precision throw that needs to be made. But if he had taken that split position, then he can defend both of these routes rather than just being able to defend the seam. So that is a problem of positioning from the safety as well as the clean release from the corner, rather than just being all on Diggs. This is an interesting play call from OU. They run an outside zone look here and then bootleg off of it. And so they fake basically a counter to the outside zone blocking and then bootleg, and the running back runs basically a little flat route here. So the reason this is interesting is a couple of reasons. First, by running outside zone, they're initially pulling this linebacker to the short side of the field here and then making him come back across to try to cover the running back. Now, if this flat defender stays flat and picks up the running back, then what you've done is bought yourself a lot of time and space for your quarterback to let these deep routes develop. The reason I bring this up is I expect Oklahoma State to run very similar concepts against us, concepts specifically that leverage outside zone blocking and the pressure that puts on you with flat routes and flat pressure in the passing game. And so, our flat defense is something that opponents have been able to pick on a little bit up to this point in the season, and Oklahoma State will probably put more pressure on us there than any team has before. OU definitely stepped up the pressure there and was inventive about using their running backs to counter some of our pressure looks and also to apply additional pressure to our flats. I think we'll encounter similar trouble against Oklahoma State. Now, if we can limit it to just plays to the flats, then our defense is doing a pretty good job. But if those plays develop into additional types of pressure, like the middle of the field opening up because we're trying to respond to the flat pressure, then that's where we might get into trouble. So I wanted to quickly talk about this 4th and 9 play where we held them. Not so much because we played great on this play, but sort of to talk about Oklahoma State a little bit. One of the things that both Oklahoma State and OU do is bring jet tempo, and that forces your offense to really or your defense to make a quick decision about how it's going to align and what it's going to be doing. But then what they'll also do is mix that with the threat of the jet tempo allows them to get a look at your defense, look to the sideline, and then get a targeted call to attack that defense. And that's something that I felt like gave us more trouble necessarily than the jet tempo, is that they got a lot of targeted calls against what we were showing. Now, Diaz tries to combat that in a couple different ways. One of the ways he tries to combat it is that he does a lot of disguising of his coverages. So he'll show one coverage shell, like a quarters coverage, and then shift to a different coverage, like cover 3. So that produces some good results, but against a more experienced offense and an offensive coordinator who understands that the defense is doing that, it's not enough. So what I'd like to see more of, and I think what Diaz's ultimate goal is to have more situations like this, where when he sees the offense audibling, then his defense feels comfortable making it audible on the field. And here we do that, and I think he'd like his defense to be doing that regularly. We're not to that level of comfort. We do it sometimes, but we'd like to get to where we're doing that regularly. And if that's the case, you can disrupt the offense's ability to make targeted calls against your defense, and you can end up in defenses where you catch them off guard a lot more. And that's the case. What we do here is they get a call that's targeted to take advantage of that soft man coverage. And instead, what they're going up against is a 3 deep coverage, and they're going to have a tough time completing those deep routes against the 3 deep.